This is the Narrowgate News Show with host Dennis Cole. Narrowgate News recognizes that history happens once, but Bible truth is being expressed by God, the Holy Spirit, through his reporters right now. This same Holy Spirit has inspired Narrowgate News to report and interpret what is truly happening in our world today. Host Dennis Cole has a college degree in literature and acting. He's also a seminary graduate, a professional actor, author, and ordained minister. We now present to you Dennis Cole and the Narrowgate News Show. Thank you for participating with us.
Hi, I'm very glad to be with you. This is Dennis Cole, Narrowgate News. Do you know what a man thinks in his heart? That is who he is. That's Proverbs 23, verse 7. What you think in your heart is who you are. If you believe in your heart, God raised him from the dead. God raised Jesus from the dead. Because the heart is deceptive, it's deceiving. But if Jesus lives in your heart, now if Jesus lives in your heart, there's a whole organic change. We can say Jesus lives in our heart and not mean it. One of the things I want to talk to you about today, in fact, today's show is called Sanity. It may be a series. I can't guarantee that. I just know there's so much material here that I could go on about with Sanity. And with Narrowgate News, we're interested in the gospel, the Bible as Emmanuel, God with us, and not taking anything away from the 66 books. In fact, it comes from that. But the 66 books constantly being expressed by God throughout the planet, throughout people, throughout nature. It has an element of Emmanuel. It's happening right now. It's the full gospel. But the full gospel in relationship to the world we live in. That's what Narrowgate News is about. And there's so much on sanity or insanity. Well, Wendy came down yesterday, my wife, and there's nobody who's up on the news like Wendy Cole. And she's telling me that the latest things that she's been listening to as she does her artwork. She's a brilliant artist, and she listens to what's going on, or she watches it on YouTube or Rumble or these special stations. And AI, Dennis, she says to me, AI is really a threat, really a threat. So I got some AI stuff. Glenn Scrivener, Professor John Lennox. I got some Alex Newman. I want to talk to you about some of the things that's out there. But let's start with Glenn Scrivener talking to Professor John Lennox, who's probably the nicest person in the whole world. He's the nicest, and he's a brilliant man. He's a scientist. You know the book 1984? Well, he's got a book called 2084. Yeah, the guy's really up on stuff. And Glenn is a brilliant interviewer. And we're getting excerpts. I'm going to show you a 1-minute excerpt of Yuval Noah Harari, the famous historian who is always speaking into transhumanism, and his favorite subject is AI, artificial intelligence. And let's listen to him for a minute. Let's let him talk. Okay? Thanks. 1 minute. Thank you.
I'd love to get your opinion on a talk.
Will AI challenge our supremacy?
What authority he has to say it, I don't know. He probably got it from ChatGPT.
If thinking really means putting words in order, then AI can already think much better than many humans.
AI is very good at putting words in order, but the system doesn't understand the words.
Everything made of words will be taken over by AI.
He's just getting away with saying what he believes without any serious logical justification.
But your book doesn't deny the fact that a revolution is afoot.
There are indicators in the book of Revelation that human beings will, under the command of a totalitarian world leader, construct an all-controlling system that has lethal powers over the inhabitants of Earth. We need to be very careful.
Okay. You can see he's very enthusiastic about things that could replace God. He's openly told us who he is. He's an atheist or whatever he is. He's from Israel. Not all Israel is Israel, of course. I'm not anti-Yuval here. Okay. I would love to have him be reached, but right now he promotes the liberty and the freedom. He thinks that somehow with AI maybe he can live forever. He doesn't have to deal with what only God can do. Here's another clip where Glenn and Professor John Lennox are watching Uval talk some more. Let's just watch this for about 3 minutes. Thanks.
The last 4 years have demonstrated that AI agents can acquire the will to survive, and that AIs have already learned how to lie. Now, one big open question about AI is whether it can think. Modern philosophy began in the 17th century when René Descartes proclaimed, "I think, therefore I am." Even before Descartes, we humans defined ourselves by our capacity to think. We believe we rule the world because we can think better than anyone else on this planet. Will AI challenge our supremacy in the field of thinking? Now, that depends on what thinking means. Try to observe yourself thinking. What is happening there? Many people observe words popping in their mind and forming sentences, and the sentences then forming arguments like, all humans are mortal, I am human, therefore I am mortal. If thinking really means putting words and other language tokens in order, then AI can already think much better than many, many humans. AI can certainly come up with a sentence like, AI thinks, therefore AI am. Some people argue that AI is just glorified autocomplete. It barely predicts the next word in a sentence. But is that so different from what the human mind is doing? Try to observe, to catch the next word that pops up in your mind. Do you really know why you thought that word, where it came from? Why did you think this particular word and not some other word? Do you know? As far as putting words in order is concerned, AI already thinks better than many of us. Therefore, anything made of words will be taken over by AI.
AI is very good at putting words in order because it has been trained on writings by some of the best minds in the world and gleaning from the ordering of those words that the system doesn't understand the words. It has no concept. It has no concept of what any of these words mean, including I am. It can link them together. And as he says, it is a very powerful predicting the next word. But you see, when he says that, he expresses his ignorance of where the next word comes from in a human. With AI, we know it comes from statistical distributions and the training literature that it has been put on. So I am extremely skeptical, actually. I noticed at the beginning of that piece, he said AI can lie, which is a moral statement, of course.
You see, he says that AI can lie. Okay. Now, if you go to Chat GPT to get your lawnmower fixed, that's good. Fine. Get your lawnmower fixed. How to change your oil in your car, go to Chat GPT. Not a lot of people know how to do that. Some people would need help with that. But if your pastor is getting off, he's kind of woke now. He's not really dealing with stuff where you won't ever talk about what's going on in the world today, which is an admonition we're constantly saying. Why are you leaving money on the table? And the money I'm talking about is souls. If you don't talk about what's going on in the world today with the gospel, then you're not doing what the Bible does. Let's say you're living in that kind of a situation. So you don't trust your pastor anymore, and you go to Chat GTP to ask spiritual questions. Then you're going to AI, which cannot, like John Lennox says, it can espouse what it's, I've read a couple of books. Well, they accumulate knowledge, all kinds of knowledge that's out there. And they accumulate, but they're not in the person. They're not in the first person with you. Yuval Harari talks about how AI can, give answers. Like, I don't know what I'm going to say next, but AI does. But AI is not present. AI is not present. This AI subject is so much what God is showing us today, that if you don't know God in very relational terms, supernaturally, yet still 2 + 2 = 4. The God that transcends gravity, but has us within gravity. It has a logical and beyond logic understanding of it. It's God. AI cannot do what the human soul can do. Only God can. Ron was showing me something, a picture of me, that AI took a picture of me for something, one of the platforms we're trying to work on. It was an AI of me. I had never seen myself in AI. And I can honestly tell you that I really do have a soul. I do have a heart. There's something in me. When a man believes in his heart, AI has no heart. It has no soul. And I saw myself without the soul. And Wendy commented, well, your hair is neat. Ron Carter, our NGN coordinator, said it to me, yeah, it looks like you. Yeah, but it wasn't me. That is insane. It's like building the Tower of Babel. It's like finding God without finding God. It's like finding a God without the struggle. Do you realize the struggles we have are little emblems, little pieces of the cross that Jesus went on? Jesus died for sins. He went through the horror of your sins and mine. And we carry our little cross, which is our struggle. And without that struggle, we are arrogant. And we go to AI for all the answers. And then if I start to talk about God in the political world, it doesn't make God political. It makes him transcending political. He's apolitical, but he lives in the political world. While you're being political, let's get back to the chapter and verse of the Bible. There's that great line we always quote from Wall Street. I create nothing. I just own. Satan doesn't create. He dismantles. But he's a brilliant dismantler. You remember, we can't face Satan without Jesus, the power of Jesus, or the knowledge of Jesus, and certainly in his name. But the reality of his name, we can't fight him, but we do fight him. We have to not self-censor. To keep your sanity, don't go to AI. I mean, yeah, get your lawnmower fixed. But don't trust it. And believe me, you're trusting it and you're getting information. When I get hits on this with Rumble, are they human or are they AI? Sometimes the comments don't seem to sound like they're human. Sometimes they're great. Don't get me wrong. I want to quote Wendy Cole.
AI has no heart and no soul. Intelligence is from God, and he measures out to each according to his will. None of us can take credit, from the highest IQ to the lowest. What is certain, the survival of the soul into his eternity has nothing to do with so-called IQ. AI will never see God. When all is said and done, these three remain: faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. Without these three, then nothing remains. Therefore, AI is nothing. Wendy Cole.
Thanks, Ron, for that quote from Wendy. Again, she comes down and she's telling me about a revelation she had about AI. It has no soul. That was the day after I saw a picture of myself without a soul. It was an AI. And the world that we live in obviously is becoming anti-God. Not only I don't believe in God, no, I don't want him. I can do it my own way. Transhumanism, artificial intelligence, robots, Harari's insights. And what happens when we look at the world and how can we stop it? How can we stop AI? It's got a mind of its own. The experts are saying we don't even know what makes it work. It goes on its own. Harari says it lies. Of course it lies. But we're depending on it. We go to it for pastoral advice. How shall we then live? Where can we go? Well, we can go right to God like never before. I want to bring out Alex Newman. Again, what I'm doing intentionally is bringing God into the news. Because if you leave God out of the news, how are we going to be able to interpret what to believe and not to believe? And with artificial intelligence getting in there, telling us what to think. In the 60s, there was MK Ultra. Well, they still do that. And there was the drugs. They do that. And then there's the vaccinations. They do that. mRNA. What is that vaccination? What is the mark of the beast? Is it an mRNA going in you and it changes your DNA? And that's why God says you cannot, if you take the mark, you're lost. Well, mark rehearsals are happening right now. Listen to what Mr. Newman has to say about communism. Your friendly communistic, guy who runs for office. He's not just the Mamdamis in New York City. We have one right here, who not only is a communist. She says she goes to the Church of Satan. She says, go to the Church of Satan if you need advice on abortion. They'll get the abortion right for you. This is how people think. Michelle Lujan, what is her last name? Michelle Lujan. Okay, yeah, right here in New Mexico. Here's an example. Alex Newman, the famous homeschool guy. Let's just listen to him. He's talking about the 10 Commandments and how communism really, really isn't political. It's a religious disorder that is antichrist. Let's listen to what Mr. Newman has to say about 10 Commandments and communism. Just 3 minutes here. Thank you.
When you dig beneath the veneer, I think the essence of communism is essentially an inversion of what the Bible teaches. And you can look at that on every point. So God says, thou shalt not murder. The communists, including Karl Marx, say, well, there's all kinds of people we need to murder. Right? I mean, some of them aren't even people, right? Like the unborn babies, we got to get rid of them if they're inconvenient. But for example, the Scottish Highlanders, right? Karl Marx had a thing about exterminating the Scottish Highlanders. He said they hadn't even reached the capitalist stage. Like, of course we need to wipe them out. If they haven't even reached the capitalist stage on their own, there's no hope of them evolving to communist utopia. So Karl Marx was an open advocate of mass murder, and of course his disciples, if you will call them that, over the years, whether we're talking about Lenin or Stalin or Mao or Pol Pot or Fidel Castro or Che Guevara or any of these people, they also have been mass murderers. So the very first command there, very significant, thou shalt not murder. Clearly, they don't pay attention to that. The next big one, thou shalt not steal. Communism is essentially based on the idea of stealing everything from everyone because private property is wrong. Of course, God himself is the one who ordained private property. When he said, thou shalt not steal, he created a right to private property. Of course, you can't steal something unless somebody has a right to own something. And that's really the foundation of a free society is private property rights. So Karl Marx said, no, we have to get rid of all private property. The state will consolidate it all and then redistribute the stolen loot as we see fit. Ten Commandments teach that we should not covet. We should not be envious of the things that our neighbor has. We shouldn't covet his house or his car or his wife or whatever. Communism, Marxism, is like based on covetousness. Hey, that guy has more than me. His house is bigger. His car is nicer. He owns a factory and I just work in it. And so I want to have that. And in fact, I want to have it so bad, I will steal it. I will kill him. So communism is satanic at its core. If you look at Karl Marx and even the people who were promoting these ideas before him, They also very openly wage war on the institutions that God designed. First and foremost among them, of course, the family, marriage and family. Marx believed that women should be held in common, that the family was a bourgeois institution that was perpetuating oppression, and that poor women were being oppressed by their mean old husbands, and that abolishing the patriarchy was essential for human progress. And, you go back to the scriptures, whose idea was it to create family? Well, that was God's idea. You go back to the Garden of Eden, right? He created Adam and Eve to be together because it wasn't good for man to be alone. And of course, marriage, the New Testament teaches us, is a representation of the relationship between Christ and the church. So this is a very significant institution that God has created, and so it should be no surprise that we find the Marxists and the communists trying to overturn that. Another really important one is nation states, right? Karl Marx wanted to abolish nations and turn us all into this big global brotherhood of man. Well, again, it was God's idea to divide mankind into nations. You read in Deuteronomy 32, you read in Acts 17, God established the boundaries of their dwelling places. So it was God's idea to divide mankind into nations. You can read that story in Genesis chapter 11, where he told them to spread out. They built a big tower, so God forced the issue. So on every issue, what we see is an inversion of what the Bible teaches.
You see, it's dismantling Christianity. The only threat to Satan's domain, making Earth look like Mars, he can rule a world that is totally, for the 500,000 people that stood around, are his slaves. Isolation, fear, distrust, fight for yourself. But God gets you integrated. And we got to not self-censor. We got to go right at it. What I said to Wendy was, I know the way out. It's the way up. God's told us it's going to happen. He's telling us at the end. He's at the end. We're so close to the end. Here's how close we are. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. Here's another one. When you see all these things, it's right at the door. The bridegroom is here, Matthew 25. Come out to meet him. Well, that's not the second coming, yet the bridegroom is here. He's on the property. That's how close he is. And he's saying, I'm standing at the door and knocking. And he's knocking where you live. Where do you live? You live in a body. It has a heart. When a man believes in his heart, that's who he is. It has a heart. But AI and the demonic stronghold, Trump derangement syndrome, another example of demonic artificial intelligence, of insanity being disguised as sanity. But there's a way out. I just said it's the way up. And the way up is to right at it. Do not self-censor. And when you don't self-censor, then you have a sense. You have a sense of what God is saying. But you cannot trust. I think I'm honest. I think it's a good report we're getting. But you've got to find it for yourself. Barbara Boyd, Promethean Action. A little clip here, just a little comment here. Why Tucker Carlson, Candace Owen, Alex Jones, Steve Bannon, why are they conservatives? They're not conservatives. Why are they MAGA? They're not MAGA, but they say they are.
If you listened to the mainstream media over the last week, you heard that MAGA was falling apart or was already dead because of a swarm of complainers and doomsayers. Nick Fuentes, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Robert Barnes, Candace Owens all say that Trump has somehow sold his soul. The headline by the British Telegraph was typical. So is this one from the British website unheard? The only thing real about the full-volume propaganda campaign against President Trump is that Russiagate 2.0, hurriedly put in motion by the British Secret Services, involves the very same people who created the original Russiagate. I'm Barbara Boyd, and I've been documenting British subversion operations against Donald Trump ever since 2016.
And if you believe everything that's out there, you're like AI, just accumulating information and spitting it out. But there's no soul. There's no heart. And the heart is much more, as Wendy would say in her quote, it's not only where Jesus wants to live, and if he really does live in you, why do you ignore him? But if he lives and he's inviting you, he's inviting you into, he's standing at the door knocking, let me in, but let me give you the mind of Christ. Let me give you the mind that can bring you the joy no matter what's going on in the world. And don't think he can't find a way to get you manna if you don't take the mark. Why not? He sent it to the Israelites, sent them manna from heaven. They're out in the desert. How did they eat? Hey, even if you starve, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, even if God doesn't come through, we're not gonna bow a knee to you. We're not gonna bow the knee to you. And that's exactly what you're facing today, friends. You're facing the choice of God and his world and his way, or Satan and his world and his way. And if you don't choose the way, you don't really choose God. You can say you do. That's why it's so important that we absolutely not self-censor, go right at it over and over again, like we're doing here on Narrowgate News. I go to UNM, that's a University of New Mexico. Since Charlie was assassinated, I go there now, and I talk to students. The evangelism that's available today is you. And it's not necessarily getting them to the final words of the sinner's prayer. You know, we talk about that. It's the reality of that, though. It's getting right at it. It's asking questions. It's bringing people to the place that God is calling you to go to right now. Do not self-censor, and do not trust the stuff that's out there. You've got to find it for yourself. Do the research, but you got to find it in your heart and believe and say no and not self-censor. Your son is a transgender or something like that, or he's a homosexual, or he just hates you because of all the things that he's heard that you did to him. Maybe you took him to church and that was badgering him. You can't believe that stuff. You gotta go right at it and say no. Find God like you never have before and express it like we are right now on Narrowgate News. Thank you very much. This is Dennis Cole, and I'm very glad to be with you today. God bless you. Narrowgate News. Thanks.
God bless you, and thank you for watching today's Narrowgate News Report. You may donate and partner with us at Zelle at 505-259-1282 or at PayPal at Dramatic Christian Ministries. Contact us at dcmngt@gmail.com or give us a call. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Thank you for participating in our Narrowgate News Show. We hope you have experienced, with our host, Dennis Cole, great insight into current events. Our vision is that Narrowgate News inspires a hunger to know what's happening in our world today, that this broadcast challenges your faith to grow closer to God, and it encourages you to share more love and truth with others. We look forward to sharing more with you on our next broadcast of Narrowgate News with host Dennis Cole.